Welcome to Wawasan Wire. Today we're talking about Anwar's economic report on the strengthening ringgit. So, the big news from Parliament recently. Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim basically delivered what felt like an economic victory speech, didn't he?
He's certainly framed it that way, focusing heavily on the ringgit's performance and maybe more importantly, those international credit ratings.
Right, and he presented these as solid proof the government's economic plan is working.
Exactly. And the timing wasn't accidental. This was during the Prime Minister's question time in the Dewan Rakyat.
Ah, okay. So not just a prepared statement then.
No, he was directly responding to a question, I believe, from a member of Party Amana Negara, asking about, how effective the government's economic framework has actually been after about 18 to 24 months.
So a direct challenge, basically, and Anwar turned it into a showcase.
Pretty much. He took that question about measuring success and laid out his metrics. It was a defense that quickly became an offense, you could say.
Let's get into the specifics then. The headline grabber was the ringgit figure, right?
He stated the ringgit had appreciated consistently, hitting 4.16 against the US dollar.
4.16. And then came the big claim.
Yes, that this appreciation makes the ringgit the best performing currency in Asia right now.
Okay, hold on. Best performing in Asia. That sounds impressive, but is it the full picture? Currencies fluctuate wildly, don't they?
That's a really fair point. Look, statistically, for a specific period, it might be accurate, but calling it the best is definitely strategic language. It grabs headlines.
Especially when the narrative before was all about the ringgit weakening.
Precisely. But here's the interesting part, the bit he really emphasized after giving the number.
What was that?
He made a point of saying this positive performance wasn't down to some specific government action or decision.
Oh, so who did he credit?
He attributed it to external independent factors, essentially market forces and global confidence responding positively.
Why frame it like that? Doesn't that almost downplay the government's role?
It might seem that way, but it's actually quite clever, strategically.
Yeah.
By saying it's the market, not us directly fiddling, he's trying to signal fundamental strength.
Ah, I see. So it's like saying the global system, the impartial judges out there, they see our underlying stability.
Exactly. It deflects any criticism about, say, artificial short-term props or interventions. He's aiming for a narrative of genuine organic recovery recognized externally.
Makes sense. It shifts the focus from what did the government do yesterday to is the overall economic structure sound?
Spot on. And that leads directly into his next point, which really hammered this theme home.
The credit ratings, I noticed he spent quite a bit of time on those. S&P and Moody's sounds technical. Why is that so important?
Because those ratings are seen as, well, about as objective and non-political as you can get in international finance. They're the big independent validators.
So what were the ratings he highlighted?
He pointed out that S&P Global Ratings maintained Malaysia's sovereign credit rating at A-, and Moody's rating also held ours steady at A3.
Okay, A-, A3. For the average person, why should they care about these letter grades? What's the real-world impact?
That's the crucial link he was making. These aren't just abstract scores. They signal low risk to the entire global financial community.
Low risk meaning?
Meaning international banks, big investment funds, even other governments see Malaysia as a very safe bet, extremely unlikely to default on its debts.
Right, and that has tangible benefits.
Absolutely. Two big ones. First, it directly impacts the government's borrowing costs. When Malaysia issues bonds to raise money, these high ratings mean we pay lower interest rates.
Okay, so less money spent just servicing debt.
Exactly. Which frees up funds, potentially billions, for spending on domestic needs, infrastructure, social programs, you name it. Second, it's a huge magnet for foreign direct investment, or FDI.
How so?
Big multinational companies look at these ratings. A stable A or A3 rating tells them it's a safe, reliable place to invest long-term, to build factories, set up regional hubs. It signals a dependable financial system.
So essentially, Anwar used these ratings agencies, these global finance bodies, as character witnesses for his government's economic management.
That's a perfect way to put it. He's saying, don't just take my word for it. Look at what these independent, powerful global experts are saying about our stability after 24 months of our policies.
It's a smart way to try and sidestep the usual domestic political back and forth.
Precisely. Grounding the argument in data confirmed by external, credible sources.
But he didn't stop there, did he? After laying out this positive economic picture, he turned his attention directly to the opposition.
Yes, this is where the tone shifted. He used this moment of reported success to launch a pretty pointed political critique.
What was the core accusation?
It was quite blunt. He basically reminded everyone how, during the months the ringgit was struggling, the opposition constantly and very loudly hammered the government over it.
Yeah, I remember that. The falling ringgit was definitely a major attack line. Proof of failure, they said.
Right. And Anwar contrasted that past criticism with the present situation. Now that the ringgit is strengthening, reaching that 4.16 level, supposedly top in Asia, what's the opposition saying?
And his answer was?
He directly stated they does not say a word. Silence.
Ouch. And he labeled that silence how?
He concluded with, this is the problem. Framing their silence not just as political strategy, but as a kind of selective focus, maybe even hypocrisy. Highlighting bad news, but ignoring good news.
That's a strong charge, basically accusing them of only being interested when things look bad.
It's a very effective political framing. He's suggesting their criticism wasn't about genuine concern for the economy's health, but more about political opportunism.
But let's play devil's advocate for a second. Is it really fair to demand the opposition cheerlead for the government when something positive happens?
That's the counterargument, isn't it? Politics is adversarial. Their job is to hold the government accountable, often by focusing on weaknesses or problems.
Maybe they're just being strategically quiet, waiting to see if this ringgit strength lasts, or focusing on other issues like, say, the cost of living, which might bite harder for ordinary people regardless of the exchange rate.
That's entirely possible. It could be a calculated silence. They might think acknowledging the good news gives Anwar too easy a win. Maybe they believe the 4.16 figure isn't sustainable, or that other economic pains, like inflation, are more pressing for voters.
So why risk looking selective, as Anwar painted them?
Because responding directly plays into his narrative. If they praise the ringgit's recovery, they validate his success story. If they stay silent, he gets to paint them as only interested in bad news. It's a bit of a political bind for them.
Especially when combined with the credit ratings.
Exactly. The silence on the currency might be defensible strategy, but the silence on the S&P and Moody's affirmations, those objective external validations that strengthens Anwar's argument more. He's effectively saying, okay, ignore the currency if you want, but how do you explain away the global experts?
It definitely raises the bar for future criticism, doesn't it?
It does. Any future attack on economic management now implicitly has to argue why these major ratings agencies are wrong about Malaysia's stability. That's a much tougher argument to make than just pointing to a daily currency fluctuation.
He's essentially shifted the battleground onto terrain where he feels he has the stronger evidence.
Proven fundamentals, validated externally. That's the narrative he's pushing.
So, turning this to you, our listeners, we've laid out Anwar's claims, the context, the political angle. What do you think? If you were advising the opposition, what's the smart play here? Should they bite the bullet, acknowledge the positive data points like the ratings, and maybe try to pivot the conversation back to cost of living or other concerns? Show they're responsible, perhaps? Or is silence the better strategy? Hold their fire, wait and see if this strength holds, and focus their attacks on areas where the government might still be vulnerable. It's a real tactical dilemma.
It really is. But the overall message from Anwar in that session was crystal clear. He's using the stronger ringgit and, crucially, those stable high credit ratings as undeniable proof.
Proof that his government's economic stewardship is working, delivering tangible, measurable results.
Yes. And challenging anyone who suggests otherwise to argue against the data, particularly the external validation from S&P and Moody's. It's a direct challenge to any narrative of instability.
It moves the government from constantly defending the economy to confidently promoting its success.
That's the core strategic shift. And the implication for the future is significant. If they can maintain this, keep the ratings high, keep the currency relatively stable, it builds a very powerful platform.
More than just economic policy, it becomes about projecting competence and long-term authority.
Precisely. That statement wasn't just an economic update. It was a political power play based on perceived economic success.
So that shift from defense to offense, using those external validators, that was the key move.
Absolutely. But here's a final thought to chew on. If the opposition does remain silent on the good economic indicators, are they actually proving Anwar's point about only focusing on the negative? Or are they playing the long game, conserving their political capital for battles over issues like perhaps inflation or subsidy adjustments that might resonate more deeply with everyday Malaysians down the line, regardless of what the ringgit or Moody's says today?
Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this.